You know that feeling when you buy a cheap mini projector off a flash sale site, set it up in the living room, and then realize the picture looks like a blurry slide on a foggy night? Most of us have been there spending a few bucks, hoping for movie night magic, only to end up squinting at a washed-out image and listening to tinny speakers that barely fill the room. That regret is exactly why I hesitated before clicking add to cart on the Cyrus A6. I wanted something that could actually replace a TV without needing a dedicated home theater room, but I also didn't want to be stuck with a novelty that fizzles out after a few uses. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In the next few minutes I'll walk through why this ultra short-throw projector feels like a smarter buy than the bargain bin options, and where it might still fall short. First off, the biggest question most buyers ask is, will this thing really give me a 120-inch screen without a massive ceiling mount or a dedicated projector room? The answer is yes, but with a twist. The A6 uses an ultra short-throw lens that lets you sit just a quarter of a meter away from the wall and still project a 120-inch image. In my own apartment that meant I could place the projector on a low side table, point it straight at the painted drywall, and walk away. No messy ceiling brackets, no need to drill holes, and the whole setup fits into the space you'd normally reserve for a coffee table. That alone makes it a genuine space saver for anyone living in a small flat or a bedroom where floor space is at a premium. Now, picture quality is the next make-or-break factor. The A6 boasts triple laser technology, which essentially means 3 separate RGB laser diodes combine to create the image. In practice that translates to deeper blacks and more vibrant colors compared to the single LED units you see in most entry-level projectors. When I streamed a nature documentary in a dimly lit room, the greens of the rainforest looked almost neon, and the blues of the ocean retained a crispness that many LED projectors just can't deliver. HDR10 support adds extra punch to bright highlights, so scenes with sunlight or explosions have that extra snap you expect from a modern TV. If you're the type who watches movies with friends on the weekend, that level of realism makes the experience feel less like a projector and more like a proper home cinema. Audio is often the Achilles heel of portable projectors, but the A6 tries to address that with built-in DTS-enhanced speakers. In a bedroom setting, the speakers fill the space nicely enough to hear dialogue clearly without cranking the volume to the point where the walls start to vibrate. I tested it with a gaming session, and the directional cues were surprisingly clear, letting me hear an enemy footstep behind me without needing external headphones. That said, if you plan to host a party with a crowd of 10+ people in a larger living area, you'll still want a separate sound system. The built-in audio is great for personal use, but it isn't a substitute for a dedicated soundbar or a home theater receiver when you need that stadium-like boom. One practical strength that often goes unnoticed is the Wi-Fi 6/5G connectivity. The projector runs Android out of the box, meaning you can install Netflix, YouTube, or any streaming app directly on the device without a separate dongle. The Wi-Fi chip is fast enough to stream 4K content without buffering, even on a modest home network. I connected it to my router and launched a 4K movie from the Amazon Prime app. The picture stayed steady, and there was no noticeable lag when navigating menus with the remote. For anyone who hates juggling multiple cables or dealing with a separate media player, this all-in-one approach is a real convenience. However, there are hidden trade-offs you should be aware of before you press purchase. The laser light source, while delivering vivid colors, does produce a slight fan noise that becomes audible in a completely silent room. It's not a roaring industrial fan, but if you're trying to enjoy a quiet piano recital at a low volume, you'll hear it. Another point is the reliance on a flat, light-colored wall. Because it's an ultra-short-throw model, any texture or color variation on the projection surface can become part of the image, slightly washing out darker scenes. In my test, a simple white matte paint worked perfectly, but a textured wallpaper introduced a faint graininess. If you don't have a suitable wall, you'll need to invest in a projection screen, which adds to the overall cost. Speaking of cost, the A6 sits in a mid-range price bracket, more expensive than the cheapest pocket projectors but far below the premium laser cinema projectors you'd find in a high-end home theater. Considering the triple laser engine, HDR10 support, built-in Android, and ultra-short-throw design, the value proposition is solid for anyone who wants a TV replacement experience without the bulk of a massive TV. The main thing you're paying for is convenience and image quality that's genuinely better than the cheap,